In this video, I'm going to be talking about 5 things that I think that you should stop doing if you're a worship leader. Kind of my 5 worship leading pet peeves coming up. Hey, Spencer here from leadingworshipwell.com. This is the place where we talk about how to lead yourself well, lead your church well, and lead worship well. So if you're interested in that, click subscribe down below, and let's get into it, because today I'm talking about my pet peeves of worship leaders, things that I wish worship leaders would stop doing. I don't want this video to sound negative and cynical. I'm telling you these things because I believe that if you stop doing them, you will improve your worship leading. So that is my heart behind this, but these are things that kind of annoy me. Some of them don't annoy me, but they're just good ideas, but some of them kind of annoy me when I see worship leaders doing them, or when I do them myself, because I still do some of these myself from time to time, and at the end of my worship leading, I'm like, man, I wish I didn't do that. So I'm not just talking at you here, I'm also talking to myself when I share these 5 things with you. So let's talk about these 5 things that I wish worship leaders, including myself, would stop doing. Before we get into that, though, I want to hear from you. What is your biggest worship leading pet peeve? What just makes you cringe whenever you see or hear a worship leader do something? Let us know down in the comments below, and I'll talk to you in a second. Thanks so much for leaving your answer down below. Let's talk about 5 of my biggest worship leading pet peeves, things that I wish worship leaders, including myself, would stop doing. Number 1, my first thing that I wish worship leaders would stop doing is leading every single song in your service. I know as worship team leaders, and especially if you're not just a volunteer, but especially if you're on staff at your church, it feels like there's pressure for you to lead every single song in your service. And so even if you have a group of awesome musicians around you, the temptation is still there for you to lead every song, because you're like, I've got to prove my worth here. Like I was hired for this job, and so I need to do it. And I need to do everything. But that is not the job that you were hired for. You were not hired to do everything yourself. In fact, that's not biblical. The biblical responsibility we have is to equip the saints for the work of ministry. That is what we're supposed to do as leaders in the church. We are to equip the saints for the work of ministry. And so if you are always the one leading every single song in your service, then you aren't equipping people to do the work of ministry. You're just doing the work of ministry all by yourself. And so we need to give other people the chance to lead. And maybe that isn't you when it comes to leading the songs, but even down to leading the speaking transitions. I see this frequently where, and I'm sure it's because maybe somebody doesn't feel confident in their speaking ability, but we still have to, it's our responsibility to guide them through that process and get them to be confident in that. But I've seen it where churches will have like the main worship leader who does all of the speaking transitions, and they'll let other people lead the songs, but they will never let anybody else speak during their service. And I don't know if that's always a conscious thing. I think sometimes we do that to like protect the other worship leaders who don't feel confident speaking in public, but they're never going to be confident in speaking and leading your church if you never push them in that direction. So it's actually not loving to protect them from that uncomfortableness. You just aren't developing them into leaders. So give them a chance to, yes, lead the songs. You shouldn't be leading every song in your service if you have other people who are capable of leading songs in your service. But you also shouldn't be doing all the speaking transitions. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Obviously, growing more leaders in your church, that's one way to do it. Also, giving other voices the chance to talk in your church. You're going to speak more specifically to a certain group of people and connect with them in your church, but the other person on your team, maybe they're like a mom, maybe they're going to speak differently into people's lives, and the moms in your church are going to connect with her while the other people in your church are going to connect with you, the young single males or whatever. Like, you see the difference? Like, a mom can speak into the lives of other moms. You can speak into the lives of the young males in your church. Whatever camp you find yourself in, there are other people in your church who will be able to speak differently into the lives of other people in your church. So that's why we should stop leading every song, and we should give other people the chance to lead those speaking transitions. The second pet peeve I have, things that I think worship leaders should stop doing, and this is a really small one, so I don't mean to blow this out of proportion, but sometimes it's fun to blow things out of proportion, and that is every time I hear a worship leader say the line of a song before they sing it, it just makes me cringe for some reason. I don't like it. It's like, I think of the song Waymaker. Like, here's an example. All right, you're singing the song Waymaker. You're going from verse 1 into the chorus. And you say, I worship you, Waymaker. Waymaker, miracle work. It's like, what is the purpose of you saying the next line of the song? We all have the screens behind us, or your congregation is staring at the screens. They see the next words. They don't need your prompting. You're just saying something to fill the space. There's something about that frustrates me. It's just like wasted space. Like, I feel like sometimes I don't know if it's like a nervous tick. I know I've done it before, but I've recently stopped doing it. I don't know if it's like a nervous tick, or if it's like I feel like there's nothing going on in this song right here, and so I need to fill the space with something. But let me assure you, the people in your church know the next line of the song. They do not need you to cue it up for them. It's already on the screen, or if your tech team is doing their job, it is already on the screen. So you don't have to say it for them unless you're like cueing, hey, we're going to sing this bridge again. That might be an instance where you can do it. But man, sometimes I hear worship leaders do it like in every part of the song, before every chorus, before every bridge. It's always like, this is the next line, everybody. They're like, we know, we see it up on the screen behind us. Something about that. Just leave some space. It's okay to leave space and not fill every single space with words in your worship stuff. So stop saying the line of a song before you sing it. The third pet peeve I have is when worship leaders use the exact words of a song in their speaking transition before they lead into a song. There's just something about that. I feel like growing up in church when I was younger, in like the early 2000s, it's like what everybody did. It was like, we're going to slyly introduce this new song by having this really well-scripted, thought-out speaking transition where we're going to sneak the name of the song in there. And so if you're like, I want to read from Psalm 93, I'm just making this up. How great are your works, O God. How magnificent is your splendor. I'm just making that up. And then you look at your church and you're like, God is great. He is truly amazing. And we can sing of how great our God is. And then you go into how great is our God. It's like, do you hear the cheesiness of that? Like, we can do better than that. We can line up the song by highlighting the truth. Like, your speaking transition is not just a way to introduce the song that you're about to sing. Like, it's not like a title slide that you put up before you sing the song. Your speaking transition is meant to lead people not into the song itself, but into the truth that the song is about to speak about. So you don't need to say those words, the name of the song, in your speaking transition beforehand. Just think about what is the truth that this song is speaking about, and how do I lead people in responding to that, and steer away from using the title of the song or the words of the song in your speaking transition. We can be more specific than that. Or think of another example, like reckless love. Like, God, he loves us, and he was willing to leave everything behind. He was willing to leave the 99 to find the one. His love is truly reckless. Those sort of speaking transitions make me laugh. We can do better than that. If you need to do better than that, check out the ultimate guide of what to say while leading worship that I put together. All right, on to number 4. All right, number 4, back to the more serious ones. This one actually makes me a little frustrated. The other two that I just talked about, I don't know, they're just funny to talk about. But this one is serious, so let's get serious. Worship leaders need to stop starting their worship services late. You should start your worship service on time. If you say that your service is at 10 o'clock, when it turns 10 o'clock, you better be going into that first song or however you start your service. Because we want to build trust with the people that we're leading, and the way that you build trust with the people that you're leading is you do what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, every single time you say you're going to do it. The easiest way to do that is to simply start on time. So if you've told your church we're starting worship at 10 o'clock, when 10 o'clock comes around, you better be starting your service. And I know that I haven't heard this in a while, but I assume it still happens. I know it used to be a problem several years ago where people couldn't get people to show up to their church on time. And so what they did was they would just always start 5 minutes later. They'd be like, well, it's 10 o'clock, but I know that a lot of people aren't here yet, so I'm just going to wait 5 more minutes. And so you wait 5 more minutes, and people eventually show up. Well, guess what? The next Sunday, they're like, oh, well, church doesn't start until 10:05, so I don't have to get there until 10:05, and then they don't show up until 10:10, and so you wait 5 more minutes, and you just keep pushing your service back until you're leading like 15 minutes after whenever your service is supposed to start. So just make the commitment to start on time, do what you say you're going to do, and stick to it. And if you have the problem of people not showing up on time, they will start showing up on time when they realize that you actually start at the time you said you're going to start at. And finally, number 5, the 5th thing that worship leaders need to stop doing is choosing songs based on what you want to sing instead of basing it on what your church needs to sing. You should be picking songs not based on what you like, but based upon what's going on in the lives of the people of your church and what truth they need to respond to. All right, we want to be unselfish worship leaders. We want to lead worship well by putting others first. And one of the ways we can do that is to stop thinking about, okay, I heard this song on the radio and I really like it, so I'm going to play it this Sunday. No, you should be thinking, I heard this new song on the radio. What is the truth behind that song? What is it communicating? What's going on in the lives of the people of my church, and how does that truth play into it? And if it doesn't play into it or make sense in the specific season of the life of your church, then you don't need to do it, because there's probably 50 other songs that you could choose that would speak directly into that situation. So we don't just pick songs because we like them. We pick songs because our church needs to sing it. So stop choosing songs based on what you want to sing and pick them based on what your church needs to sing. That goes not only for song selection, but also picking the keys for your song. That could be like a secret number 6 to this list, is stop putting songs in keys that only you can sing in, all right? We are leading our church in musical worship, so we want to make musical worship as easy, the musical side of worship, as easy as possible for the people that we're leading. So let's put our songs in keys that they can sing in. I don't care if you can hit a high G note. Most of the people in your church can't sing that high. So check out the video that I put together about putting your songs in congregational friendly keys. I know a lot of people say there's no such thing as a congregational friendly key. Everybody has a different range of singing. I haven't found that to be true in my leading. I understand people have different ranges in their singing, but there is like a a range that you can put your songs in that most people will be able to sing. So go check out that video. I'll link it down in the description below, and you can learn my process for putting songs in congregational friendly keys. There they were. I don't like to be negative and cynical on this channel, and I hope that this didn't come off that way, but it's just fun to talk about these things sometimes, just those little things that bother me that I think if we fixed, we could lead our churches a little bit better. Speaking of improving your worship leading, it's not just about a list of don'ts. There are things that you can do to improve your worship leading, and I put together a free audio training. I've linked it down in the description below. It's called 5 Tips to Instantly Improve Your Worship Leading. So if you want to steer away from the 5 things that I talked about and steer towards the 5 things that I teach in the 5 Tips to Instantly Improve Your Worship Leading audio training, make sure to check out that down in the description below. Other than that, thanks so much for joining me. Until I see you in the next video, stop using the lyrics of songs in your speaking transitions before you lead. Keep leading worship well.